Where I flew, I was always on the periphery of combat. I think the U.S. does a good job of saying that they're going to bring democracy and stability to the world when nobody asked for it. Somewhere between 20 and 40 veterans commit suicide every day. He's coming to land in Iraq, and then he comes set down. He's on short final, so like super slow and low. Worst place to be, right? You don't want to be there in a helicopter. And a guy just comes around the corner with an RPG.
Oh, shit.
And he's sitting right seat, and he just sees at nighttime, so it just looks like a bottle rocket at night because you're on goggles. And so he sees it just like whoosh.
Hey guys, welcome to Soul. We have a great guest today, Blake. He was an Air Force pilot. Now he became this famous artist. He cares a lot about veterans. I really want to learn a lot about the issues with the veterans and how to help them and how we all can help them, because a lot of them serve for our protection, for our safety. So it's going to be fun. Blake, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Already calling me sir. I'm feeling so honored right now. I should call you sir. So let's start with Air Force. How did you get into Air Force?
Sure.
And tell me more about it.
Well, not to correct you off the bat, but the Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
It's all right.
What's the difference?
So the Marines are just better than all the other branches.
Okay.
Just, so you have the Air Force, Army, Marines, and Navy. And Marines are typically, they're better, right? Most I think everybody would like to think that, especially a Marine.
Yeah.
But the Marines have a little different ethos in that every Marine is a rifleman.
Okay.
And that makes it so the guy who's running the admin shop, the guy who's cooking, the guy who's fixing the Humvee, or the pilot, they always have the mentality is that they could, either be in a rifle platoon or they could be leading one. And
Wow.
so that's makes the backbone of like the Marine Corps a little bit different than all the other branches.
Essentially, you all are trained in all areas of whatever you need to do to protect.
Especially on the officer side, is that we do a kind of after you go to officer candidate school, you do a 6-month course, which is kind of like how to be a Marine infantry platoon commander. So you get to shoot every gun, call in fire. You do every facet of the Marine Corps, like kind of.
And the Air Force, they just fly?
Yeah, you're just a pilot.
Oh, wow.
That's it. No, it's in a little different of how they do things. So again, adaptability, versatility is kind of
That's cool.
doing more with less is the kind of the idea.
I thought you're just a pilot. You call yourself an Air Force. But okay, if you're a pilot I think, so you're landing on ships.
Yeah.
Which is even harder than to land on a...
It's a little bit tougher. Yeah.
Why?
There's just a lot more things to think about. So for the V-22 specifically, is that when you're landing on the carrier, and there's kind of an amphibious aircraft carrier and then the bigger nuclear powered ones, and you have about 12 to 13 feet where your rotor to hit the superstructure. So it's tight, super tight. You're landing on each landing gear on 3 squares. That's where you land. The boat's moving, it's nighttime, rainy, foggy, can't see. You're flying on night vision goggles, and you're never flying in beautiful places in the daytime, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish that was the case.
Wow, this is crazy. So V-22, for people who don't know, including myself,
Okay, yeah.
please explain what it is.
Sure. So the V-22 is the first tilt rotor aircraft developed and operationally in the world. So the big idea is that it's a space helicopter basically, but the fact it more just takes off like a helicopter and then can tilt the rotor down and fly like an airplane.
Oh, that's like I saw them. It's like a big helicopter looking plane. We're like,
Right.
What is that?
Yeah. I don't even know how it works either. So
Wow.
black magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the Marine Corps?
When I was 7, I saw my uncle, who was in the Air Force, get off of a F-16 on the tarmac after an air show. And I remember looking at that going like, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's
So cool.
What else should I want to do?
Yeah.
I wanted to do that. And so from that point, it had been a dream dream path purpose was to fly, fly jets in the in the Air Force. So you were started.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
But the Air Force is like, hey, I was a history major. in college, and so they're like, "Yeah, but we only want math guys."
Really? To get
Yeah,
an Air Force, you have to be a math guy.
yeah. Typically, they want some kind of hard science or math major background to do Air Force. With the Marine Corps, they kind of or just they take anybody.
Really? I would thought that you need to just be born and trained all your life to be in Air Force, but like you need to be good at math because
Yeah,
typical math people from like a math
yeah,
department does not associate with me. Nothing against math people.
yeah,
I love them. To be like
yeah.
hardcore Air Force pilots.
You're. I don't think it's necessary. It's helpful. It's like a measure of cognitive ability, but it's not the end all be all. Because
Yeah,
I certainly was. I was a history major in college, and I didn't do that well, and yet I flew a $150 million airplane. So
that's crazy.
like I think, and then that's the point. It's like you train hard enough, work hard enough, and I
Yeah,
think you can do anything you want. And that was that. Went back to them. I had that focus of effort and thought of that's what I wanted to do in the face of people and my environment and everybody saying like, "Hey, I don't know if it's going to work out," and I'm like, "Yes, it is."
I love it.
Having that indomitable mind.
So
To
even when you were a history major, you still like, I'm gonna be
Yeah,
a pilot,
right,
no matter what.
right.
I'm just here for
To check mark.
check the
in the
box.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And how hard it was to get there.
It was tough. Many different times it was like they were like the door shut,
Yeah,
and but I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do exactly, but I still believe that there are options.
yeah,
Like I still pursued. Oh, there's another option. Went after it. Because I always had that thought. Like there's not when one door shuts. That saying, when one door shuts, another one opens, is true. And I kept seeing that in my life. And the Marine Corps' mentality fits me too, as well, where they want people with purpose and like this drive. And, as an example, when I went to college, my freshman year, I went to a military college, and, they have each branch will make a presentation to be like, "Hey, join us. We
yeah.
have the best. You'll see the world," and blah, 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 blah. And the Marine was last. He gets up there as a Marine officer, just classic, like square jaw. And he's just like, "Hey, if you want to join the Marine Corps, it'll be the toughest out of all the branches. It'll be the most demanding, and, that's it. It's the
I love
most
it.
difficult." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I think, all right."
I think I would join that as well.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, because you did, you're always the Marines are kind of always the first, and it's in the Marine Corps hymn. It's like first to fight is literally part of their ethos.
Really?
So yeah.
But I don't know nothing, so I'm gonna ask stupid questions. So bear with me. So when the war is happening, I guess we're all preparing for a war.
Yeah.
Isn't like the war on sea is not like the most usual wars that are happening. Most of the wars happening on land.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that the Marine Corps is amphibious in nature, in the sense that we deploy on Navy ships, and then do operations off the ships to support the ground operations. But they do kind of dual purpose, where off of ships and or just in the desert typically,
Wow.
where we have been. But again, the where the Navy comes in is that they we support the Navy in the originally it was you had Marines on the ships as the garrison of guys that had the guns that defend, from taking on another ship or something like that.
Like pirates and stuff?
Yeah, similar.
Okay.
And it's just evolved into what it is today. So,
But they still protect some lands, right? Right now, let's say there's issue with the Red Sea, I think, where the ships are moving.
yeah, that's a predominantly Navy. It does
that's a
that,
Navy.
but we're on those ships, and then we'll fly. We fly off the ships and interdict. Hey, they're like, "Hey, we've got a contact X miles," and we'll go fly and check it out and something like that. So we support them in that sense.
And what are the usual assignments?
So for how the Marine Corps has operated for the past 20 years, so as an example, so I was a freshman in college when 9/11 happened.
Okay.
And so that, and I was kind of like, I would already been like, "Yep, okay, I'm still doing on what I plan to do."
Yeah.
But predominantly was your question like the Marine Corps? What's its job?
Yeah.
I mean, its jobs has been peacekeeping and or I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question because it's kind of changed over the course of the past 20 years because it started off of, oh, they're weapons of mass destruction to now they're not weapons to now what exactly were we doing?
Yeah, that's a good topic that we're
You
going to
know?
talk about.
Yeah,
But like,
exactly.
if there's a terrorist and you need to take it out, so would Marine Corps would be somewhere like it's close to? I guess it doesn't matter if it's close or not because they fly anyway. So you're just like, could
So
potentially you be the one who
yeah,
would just
that I
fly
mean
them?
could be. That sounds like a more of a special operations mission where
So
the
many companies.
yeah,
This big United States has so many
yeah,
corporations to
yeah.
support it.
Yeah, there's just like that's the special ops guys typically would do something like that where something more broader, larger scale that the Marine Corps would typically do. Just of the nature of how the Marine Corps works. It's like it's to be on a ship, to be mobile, to be adaptable, to be self-sustaining for, between like 30, 60, 120 days depending on the makeup of, what is
Yeah.
happening. So, but something like that. So, that's a little too small for us.
Okay.
However, there are Marine Special Operations Command within the Marine Corps that do some things like that,
Yeah.
but not typically for the V-22 because it kind of falls into a different mission set.
Okay. So what's the mission set?
So the mission set is assault support. And so mainly we take, somewhere between 18 guys in the back and we drop them off to go get bad guys, if you will.
Oh yeah.
And then we loiter, wait for them to finish or whatever like that. But that's assault support, so that could be dropping supplies off, airdropping stuff off. We can aero refuel, and then we can provide some other ASR, other types of support around that. Again, support, and all it is supporting, the rifleman on the ground is the key part.
It's a very dangerous job.
I think so. Yeah, it was
because you fly and like other people want to knock you out.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that mentally?
So I think the mental side is that you're kind of comfortable with, comfortable with death. You've contemplated death. I guess those who do it well, that's not a facet. That's not as far as like, hey, I'm here to support the guy on the ground. I'm going to do whatever it takes to, make it happen, because the only thing that matters when you're flying, is obviously getting to the spot safely.
Yeah.
But did you get there on time? That's it.
Yeah.
Plus or minus 3 seconds. That's the deal. Because those guys have been running from somewhere or coming over from somewhere else.
It's crazy. It's lots of stress.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing is like, we were talking about before this is that, Bali is a lot of chaos, a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It's powerful. And, I found it to be very good for me.
Yeah, for me it's like nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm dropping people in like some crazy places, then I'm picking them up. It's like, here, just drive a bike.
Yeah, like it's great. But yeah, I think you're just comfortable with that. You've the guys who do it well probably have contemplated death to some degree, and they're just like, hey man, I want to help. I'm helping my brother.
To me, that's very fascinating because we don't meet a lot of people who are in this state of I might die every single day.
Yeah.
So I assume when you're dropping these people, you're still scared to some degree, or just like
I mean, maybe some are, but I think in those senses, I'm doing what I exactly.
Yeah.
What I loved. I'm, in that type of scenario, it's like I'm present in the moment. And I was like, I don't think, because if I was somewhere else, then I couldn't be executing as well as I could be. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's funny here too. Like everybody's riding on their bikes around here, and it's like everybody's completely in the present moment, just on sidewalks, streets, everywhere.
That's true. Yeah. Like when you start, you're so scared. Like, oh no, my God, I'm just gonna get in an accident.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die. Once you do it every day, you just go and you go.
Right.
I have this feeling like, okay, I might die any day because I drive like crazy, unfortunately. But I'm like, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And like I'm doing what I'm doing right now. I'm not need to focus on that. Just look.
Yes. Yeah.
Look in the front. So it's similar.
Yeah, I would say very similar because I've thought that about that driving around here. That
Really?
everybody's here present, and that's and I think that's similar when you're doing something like that dangerous and a lot of things are happening. It's like you don't have time for it almost.
Yeah. I mean, if you can share anything, I know that it's probably some of the secret, but like, what are some of the craziest day that you had
Um,
without any details that you can share?
oh, well, let me think about what's a. So well, I'll share as a mishap that happened, and we had there was four V-22s that are going, and this wasn't anywhere. This was just in Hawaii, but and this was a kind of training operation, and so flew off the carrier to Hawaii. We left San Diego, heading to Hawaii, and we were about I don't know, say 300 miles out. They launched, have all the guys in the back, four V-22s launch, and they'd come in to do a landing on a zone on the east side of Hawaii. So just less north of Lahaina, south of K Bay, which is a Marine base there. And one of the V-22s had come in and hit a big dust cloud, come up, had an engine issue, and ended up like crashing, falling apart. Horrific accident. The silver lining with it, just if this video's online, and it's when you watch it, it's terrifying as you see the aircraft fly, the wings break off and the rotors just break apart. But only, you think everybody's dead, but only two guys died in that crash. So a crew chief died as part of our squadron, and then one of the Marines, the kind of rifleman, one of the infantry guys in the back. But it was like and then I spent the next month on the island cleaning up and doing the investigation for it. And it was kind of a really unique experience to kind of pull the veil back a little bit and have this unfettered access to like, hey, why did it happen? You're getting all of this incredible data. Was it pilot error? Was it mechanical failure? Was it a little bit of both? People are dead, and it's just like a lot of things are happening. But that was probably one of the most unique experiences because I was literally cutting the aircraft apart to, moving it around the island, the engines for analysis. And so it was just like this incredible experience of understanding how this plane worked. Because it is still, there's no civilian version of this plane anywhere in the world. And it's super complicated. The maintenance, like the preventative maintenance on it, is just wild. Of how much money is spent to maintain it, just because it is a very unique aircraft. I mean, that was probably a super interesting experience to then start analyzing the data. But when you look at aircraft mishaps, and you like in the military, and then in the broader aviation senses, they're almost always pilot error.
Okay.
And a lot in the military. And, it's like, oh, well, just chalk it up to pilot error. But it's like, well, was it difficult what they were doing? Yeah, it's like kind of, okay, they're probably stressed. It was nighttime. They couldn't see. It was bad weather. There's then also the perceived pressure of like, don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
You got to make the mission. You got to get there. And so there's just all of these things that you add on in. Were they tired? Fatigue.
You train a lot.
Yeah. And so there's like things add up of just like, understanding all of these dynamics, and because sleep makes up a huge part of aircraft mishaps and fatigue and some things like that. So that was a really unique experience. But I would say that's a good one. But on the other note, it's like where I flew, I was always on the periphery of combat.
Okay.
And at some point I'd before my second deployment, I was with a mentor of mine. He was actually on my show, and his call sign is Shazam. It's a good one. And we were chatting before I was deploying, and I'm like, "Hey, Shazam, I'm really looking to test my mettle. Like, I want to go out there and because I think I'm pretty good. It's just not too much hubris, but more like I'm ready."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Blake, let me tell you a story." Basically, and he tells it a little bit better, but he's coming to land in Iraq, and then he comes set down. He's on short final, so like super slow and low, worst place to be, right? You don't want to be there in a helicopter. And a guy just comes around the corner with an RPG.
Oh shit!
And he's sitting right seat, and he just sees at nighttime, so it just looks like a bottle rocket at night because you're on goggles. And so he sees it just like whoosh, goes with like maybe through the rotor system, and everybody's like, "Holy shit! Did you see that?" Yeah, Yeah, it's like, I thought you guys were dead. It's like, yeah, so did we. And the guy left. But he was like, Blake, that story is an example of like, it didn't matter how good I was.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with that. Like the skill and all of the schools I've been to and all the time I put in was irrelevant. I just was lucky.
Yeah. Wrong
That was,
time.
and I remember that, and that's stuck with me since 2005 to now. Of like, hey, would you rather be lucky or good? You know.
Yeah. 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 Fuck.
um,
Wow.
but yeah, so and that's what I was saying. I was like lucky because I feel like in a lot of ways I call it superposition myself outside of conflicts or mishaps or just flying the aircraft well enough to not crash it. Because I think the V-22 can be described as that, or when you fly it, it'll just barely kill you. You don't know sometimes,
Yeah.
because of the aerodynamic uniqueness of it. It's
Yeah.
very unique in how things work with it. And if you ever are outside of its aerodynamic envelope, if you will, like you're dead.
So it goes into.
Yeah. So there's some unique phenomenons of how it flies and works with different other wind effects.
Yeah.
That if you're not thinking ahead of the aircraft, if you will, like, okay, I'm maybe encountering this up here or something, then it'll get you. Yeah.
Crazy. So you seen death, which a lot of people never seen death. Like if you're not in a specific professions,
Sure.
death is not very common. So how do you reconcile seeing death, and how did it affect you, I guess?
I think it goes back into my faith. So I grew up Anglican Catholic in Orlando, and I had a grandfather who it's like he's 90, 92 now. A grandfather who was kind of a mentor to me growing up really young, and that's kind of part of why I wanted to be a pilot for quite a while. But that, I don't know, that's a good one because it's evolved. I just felt like I can't affect that, and that it all will come for us in time, and that when my time comes, like, and anything I see now won't matter.
Yeah.
That's evolved, I'd say, after I got out of the military in 2016, of kind of back, I mentioned earlier, like the contemplation of death, and that's kind of like in a stoic term of, if you're thinking about your mortality, then it's easier to, be around it. Be around it, because then you understand how fragile these bodies are.
For sure.
And like enjoy and happiness that I got it right now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Amazing. So the other thing you touched on that I guess we should touch on, because a lot of new information coming up, let's say what we knew, not we, I'm not a United States citizen, so I don't know why I'm including myself into this, but what, let's say, United
the
States.
global citizens.
What citizens of the United States thought it was not necessarily what it really was. I guess, I don't know, it's for a debate.
Yeah.
Some theories say that there is no weapons of mass destruction at all.
Right.
I think it was kind of proven and accepted as a theory now. So how, as somebody who is fighting for a country and have certain missions and believe in certain ideals, how do you feel about what's coming up, and that maybe the reasons that you might have thought in some of those missions were not exactly as they were described? I'll put it this way.
Yeah. So hindsight is much quicker today in 2024 to recognize that, specifically men and women that have served in the military, it's that they may have been serving and protecting, they've been serving somebody else.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily protecting anybody. Maybe creating more chaos than protecting anybody, creating more things. And so I think today's day and age, with the prevalence of AI, media, internet, that young military men and women look back within a year. That hindsight is so quick, or less, or even in the military, and they're questioning, who was I serving?
Yeah.
Who was I protecting? because we as an officer, it's a little different between officer and enlisted. I swear an oath to the Constitution,
Okay.
where it's a little different for the enlisted. But the idea is that I'm not serving the president. Like my allegiance is to the Constitution. It's to the idea, and it's to question unlawful orders if they're given. Although that takes an incredible amount of intestinal fortitude and gumption to do something like that. And I think an interesting one is that, so good, your question is that, so during the Afghanistan pullout, which I don't know from your thoughts, but I think it's pretty conclusive that it was a complete and utter failure of how most people can agree with that.
I would agree with that.
And so there was one active duty Marine in North Carolina that questioned what the hell is going on, and he got fired. Nobody else did.
Yeah. I could see that.
And so, so this is the hindsight of young Marines with this access to information is so much more rapid right now.
Yeah.
And of questioning, when they're out, if it, because sometimes it's about 4 to 5 years minimum. So, you serve your time and then you get out and they're kind of like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
There's like, was I, even there's the guy who shot bin Laden was like, he's on another podcast saying, I shot bin Laden, but who'd I shoot him for? Like, was he really the bad guy? You mean, because you kind of question, it was like the guy, the 70-year-old man in a little cement, the house in the middle of fucking nowhere. He's literally the mastermind. You start questioning these things. You question the narrative, and I think that is important for society and certainly even to understand the truth.
Yeah,
because it seems to be shrouded a little bit. Because when it's like, it's where there's is it Voltaire? I can't remember when it's like, hey, whoever you can't question, then they're the motherfucker. You know.
I guess a bigger question that interests me about people in the military who have orders. United States been to many conflicts.
Yeah.
Very far away from United States, Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan. At what point, like in your thoughts, and I often think about it, I'm like, do you really had anything to do with protecting your own country by being there? Or maybe there is some oil rigs or whatever it is. It's a money thing. How do you feel about it that the United States goes into those places and just, I guess, destroys the whatever it was? Was it good or bad? I don't know.
Right.
But do we have any, should we go there and do it? I actually question that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think the U.S. does a good job of saying that they're going to bring democracy and stability to the world.
Yeah.
When nobody asked for it.
Yeah.
And I think that they paint show an illusion to people, to the U.S. that we're helping. And again, that's the hindsight of, you look at the CIA's, ability to manipulate elections and stage coups in countries, and then it's backed up by the U.S.'s number one export is war.
Yeah.
And Smedley Butler was a World War I Marine general. He won 2 medals of honor. And then after he got out, he wrote a little novella called War is a Racket.
Okay.
And so this has been going on since, probably since before World War II.
Yeah.
Of the forever wars.
Forever wars.
To, Julian Assange said something to the tune of, Afghanistan, particularly maybe Iraq and surrounding, were to wash the money of the tax bases out of the U.S. and in Europe. Okay. And then, in some ways, that's what has happened, because you kind of look at this similar inflation and other things, because things are not exactly better.
Yeah.
You look at the most technologically advanced society that we know of today, but yet it seems to be the sickest, certainly in the U.S.
Yeah. Between
diabetes, heart disease, obesity, et cetera. Dementia, Alzheimer's, so things like that. So,
and if you look at places that U.S. came in, same Iraq, it's been a long time
right,
since U.S. invaded Iraq, and right now Iraq is just Non-existent.
Right.
It's like completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Same with Afghanistan, same
Right.
with Libya, same
Yeah.
with other conflicts in Africa. It's
Right.
just there's no you come to make a democracy, but are those any of those countries are better off now
No.
than before?
Yeah, Afghanistan, since that 20 years in Afghanistan, it's been 5 million total death count, 5 million.
Great.
And that's just Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And then you start then looking at the other numbers, and it's like there's not, what's the success matrix or the metric, excuse me, metric where there hasn't been one. And that's kind of like you see the lack of accountability for like generals.
Yeah.
Like we haven't won a war in 20 years, but generals seem to keep getting promoted.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like a business. Like, what is the KPI?
Yeah.
Like, what are we trying to achieve? What is our goals? What's our
that's
vision?
the thing is there's no KPI. There's nothing to hold them accountable except for like me and this show. And I think it's like that.
Wow.
And I think it's meant to be like that. It is not. And again, I think it goes back to like, all right, you know, seek the road less traveled, you know, doing the difficult thing. And even having, you know, conversations like this of just like, why, you know, a tagline that I came across, a friend of mine who is a Green Beret, and now he's also an artist. He lives in Texas now. And he's always he has a thing on his painted, it's called Question Everything. And I'm like, yeah. Because it's to question everything, to be a contrarian, and to be adaptable. Like those are the things that have kept me alive throughout my entire life and in the Marine Corps. And I'm like, why would I change any of that now when I sense and feel something is wrong?
Yeah.
You know, why would you change that?
But I assume it's very hard for veterans. I know how I want to ask your experience, but let's say if you live that lie, you can call it a lie or deceit, that you realized is a deceit, and then you retired, and then you understand, I just spent 15 years of my life fighting for something that does not exist. Maybe if you're in this operations, killed people that should not be killed, just because I thought something. I'm sure many of those people didn't even know that what they're fighting for is completely wrong. Maybe some do now, but they still cannot say no because the money comes. Like people are people. Like the money comes and you have a stable job. What I'm going to do? Work in Starbucks? Like I don't know what to do. So, how's the life of the veterans, and how is your life after, I guess, getting some realizations about it?
So, life of veterans right now in the U.S. is somewhere between 20 and 40 veterans commit suicide every day.
Wow.
Which is an inordinately large amount compared to every other cross-section of society. And that's probably reflected throughout the world of whoever's been served in military, and also first responders, so police officers, firefighters, who come up to probably horrible scenes every day. Those numbers are similar in those groups, a little different. But what I see in the military is that often is that the guys that spend time in the military and then get out, their ego or identity is tied to it. And so they feel like they've completely lost it or it's died. And they haven't, had their individuation and separated their mind, their archetypes out to do that. And so they've lost their mission, their purpose. And they try to find it, and and it doesn't matter who you are, who you were, whatever you did in the military. It's like it still costs, or $3 for the cup of coffee, and nobody gives a shit about you.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing. Here you are running around with a gun, and then you're protecting the country, protecting the people.
Yeah.
Now just walking the street, people are like, don't give a shit.
Yeah, especially like when you're, everybody's like, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, and then everybody's like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And so they lose that. They can't find it. They try to find things. They, and they try to find it somewhere else in drugs or whatever, finding it somewhere else and not realizing they got to like fix this in here. And so, it's kind of an epidemic, and even the broader sense of almost 800,000 people commit suicide every year globally.
Every year.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Those are like, it's a big number. But back to the veterans, those are super adaptable. Some of the time, you could be, pilot, Green Beret, Navy SEAL, or just an admin guy. It doesn't matter. It takes them all. It takes the best of the best, or just maybe it was just a low hanging fruit guy, whatever.
Yeah.
But they lose their identity. they lose their purpose and mission. And I think especially for men, when you don't have any of that, then what are you doing? You lose it, and then you have, the fragile mind breaks easily.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like, simply put, kind of what happens, because they don't have a support network. Sometimes they don't have a family, because I think that helps considerably. Like my wife, kids, family, like that helped. That's nice to have when I'm like, not, whenever it is, like I'm feeling down, whatever, you're depressed, whatever, you're like, chat with your wife, or hopefully you have a friend like that. Or
But did you ever think that, I just wasted my time, like I did that for wrong reasons, if I would choose it again, I'll probably not do it anymore?
I think maybe I had those are fleeting thoughts, but then I realized that it was to temper me. Like I was, I needed this to temper Blake Fisher, because I like to do like difficult things, like always, like don't sign me up if it's going to be super easy, because then it's probably not going to be memorable, it's something like that. But it tempered my mind, body, soul, period.
Okay.
Like to have that tempering and balance, bring balance to my life, to come back into the civilian world and, do all the things that need to happen in there to, like, because how often, when like the amount of situations you have, I would say, because I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps, where you just are talked to like, you're just motherfucked to your face, and you just sit there and be quiet. You're just like, yes, sir. Like it just tempers you to handle chaos.
Yeah. But do you think that's the best way to do it?
No, I would say
I don't know. I'm just asking.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that's the best way. I think that like a lot of young men, they're seeking to do something great. They're after it. They're like I was young. I still had some balance to myself, but still I wanted to go pursue, like, I want to go kill bad guys, right? That's universal. Save the world, kill bad guys, like, and that's what I do. I want to test my mettle. I want to fly, like go fly, do the most dangerous shit. I'm not really thinking like, hey, you could die, right? Like don't worry about that. But that in all of itself is like the whole kind of the holistic Marine Corps, where it tempered me. And I think that if I would change it to any degree, I wouldn't have the children I have now, or things. I couldn't change any of that, but it was difficult. And those are things that I go back and I can rely on,
for sure.
That I have this adaptability, anti-fragile nature that, you can put me anywhere, I can do anything, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
No matter what happens.
Of course. It's like the best training.
Yeah.
You get your ego completely dissolved and reconstructed.
Yeah.
And I would say, actually, at some point, I like to be tough. I like to run ultra marathons and stuff. I like to challenge myself. So I had those feelings that if I would go to the army, I would be okay. Like I never, I don't want to go into Latvian army that has a lot of other issues. They just, there are rapes in there and deaths in there. So it's like pretty crazy. But I think for young men who has a lot of ego, sometimes it's worth to just put their ego in check and get them where they have a lot of testosterone, lots of energy, to get them to do something very, very hard.
Right.
I'm not saying that killing bad guys, don't know who bad guys are.
Yeah.
That's a different
an amorphous term,
I don't know if that's the best part, but
no.
Going really hard is something that will always be with you. Once you did that, like you can always go back to that feeling like, okay, I was piloting the crazy plane. Now I'm just driving in Bali on a road. It's okay.
Yeah, no, like I'm real good with that.
Yeah. But the being motherfucker, that it's a great term. It's interesting. Like, do you think that's the way to handle the situation? Do you think like this really, I guess, assertive way of dealing with people is the way to go? And I don't know. I don't know the right answer, but I'm like, I would not feel comfortable with somebody who would just like tell me how much shit I am every day. Even if I am. Is there a better way to do it? What do you think? Or is that?
Yeah, no, there is.
Okay.
There is. And I think that was kind of my anecdotal comment on the leadership in the Marine Corps. There were I had some good ones, but I had some, a good amount of bad ones.
Yeah.
Where you like that's where you learn from the bad ones. You're like, okay, I'm not going to be like that guy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, those are you learn from the bad ones, and I had a good number of them, and I feel like I only had hindsight once I got out of the military to like understand. Did these guys not want to read any of the leadership books? That like no, nothing. They're just gonna be shitty dudes.
'Cause
Okay,
it's based on fear, right? A lot of it based on fear.
of course, because it's the fear of them losing their jobs,
Yeah.
and then they that manifests to you fucked up. Like they're pointing the finger at you rather than accepting.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like again, I think everything like that goes into fear. So, but yeah, no, it's like I try to when I had Marines working for me, I've try to balance that out between, we'd like, so I would do something where like when I had guys working for me in a maintenance shop,
Okay.
I would have everyone to come sit down, and we'd come into my office, and like they'd sit down and be like, hey, I'm Blake, what's your first name? Just so, because he called me Captain Fisher, and then, it'd be Lance Corporal, sewing belt buckle, whoever.
Yeah.
But it was like, hey, I'm Blake, what's your name? Like, where are you from? Like, let's have that, establish that personal connection. Cause that was so they can understand, like, I don't know what I'm doing either, and a little bit more than you, maybe.
Yeah.
But let's just chat, because we're just both here, and I'm relying on you to work on my airplane and do it safely and well. And like, because if you don't do it, then I'm gonna die. And I want you to know that I care about you.
Yeah.
Like I give a shit. And so it's by that. But then there's also like in the Marine Corps, we have to go out to like the pull-up bar.
Yeah.
So it's like who can do the most pull-ups? it comes down to that,
Yeah.
And so like I had been training. And pull-ups are part of the Marine Corps' like PFT, the fitness test to do pull-ups, and so like that. But then pull-ups are my jam. So
okay, how many can you do?
I'd say now, I think probably like almost 30 dead hang, something like that.
What about your best?
I got like 42.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that was the day where we all, go out there. The whole about like 80 of us. We go out to the bar, and but it's also like this test too. Is like, hey, who does the least amount? Get up there. You go first.
Yeah.
Some guys are doing 4 or 5, but it's like competition of like, hey, I'm not trying to make fun of you, but let's come on, just everybody's got to see what everybody can do. Everybody puts it out on the table. Yeah. But so there's like and then I trained and. Because I knew I was going to do it. And so a guy got up there to do like 30 something. And then I'm the last one up. And then I blew him out of the water with like, I think he did like 38 or so.
Wow.
But like, so there's that. It's like, hey, there's compassion. And then there's like, it's like power, like whatever it is. So to have that balance. And I think that's important to establish that personal connection. But also it's like, hey, because ultimately like everybody has a rifle in the whole squadron. They get one, and so it goes back to that, every Marine is a rifleman type of like, you got to carry your own shit.
Yeah.
You got to be able to hump the length of, whatever we're doing. I don't know. Where are we going with that?
I'm just still processing 41 pull-ups. That is crazy. But it's interesting that what you're describing is not really a fear, but more a competition, which I think is way better than just I'm afraid of you. And then I fuck up because I'm like, oh, what if Blake thinks I'm not good enough? Let me do this and that. Then you get panicked. Yeah. I mean, again, what do I know?
So, well, no, that's a good point. So and I feel like I can finish that off, that topic off there's in the Marine Corps and military, maybe, I don't know if it's in the other branches or not, but there's this called like a zero defect mentality, meaning like, hey, if you fuck it up, you're done. You're not going to be able to get promoted. Nothing if you mess up one time, something probably insignificant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was always thought that was, that's insane
to
have that. Because, right, how would nobody can mess up?
Yeah.
That is
also promotes people not to tell when they mess up.
Right, yeah. It's the whole thing is bullshit. And then some people say like, oh, we don't have zero defect mentality. Well, why is it when anybody gets in trouble, we kick them out or they get punished and it's like their career is over?
Yeah.
So how do so then everybody's going to lie, right? It's a horrible way to do things. And so, but that's kind of how, when, as I was getting on the Marine Corps, again, that was even for officers and flying, and you're just like, and there's lots of pressure and stress, and you don't want to fuck up and this or that, and so you don't have people that are forthright, that want to talk to these people, because like I don't, and a lot of the guys that I work for, they were pilots, obviously all pilots, and so guys aren't gonna come tell them what anything's
Makes
wrong,
sense.
right?
Because they're not enticed to tell. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah,
it's like,
crazy.
That's why the fuck ups happen. Because I'm so afraid to tell that I did something wrong. I don't want my career to go.
Yeah. So, and there's like, as an example, I had one CEO, and so we had, I'll get to his name maybe. Well, so, but in a squadron, so in a Marine squadron, you kind of have, this is like real rudimentary, where you have each pilot each aviator in the squadron. So you're a pilot. So you have three things. It's three pillars, or a stool, if you will, to be a good asset in the squadron. So you have to have, be a good, right? You have to have two of the three to like function.
Yeah.
Pilot, you got to be a good pilot. You have to have a good ground job, like you're like a good admin game, where it's like, hey, you do your job well. In that fashion, you're like the opso, you're the safety guy, you're the maintenance guy. You have a job in the squadron.
Yeah.
And then the third is your bar act. Like, are you good out?
Okay.
It's like,
how social are you?
Yeah. Are you a sloppy drunk?
Yeah.
No. Like, nope, they don't have good one. But like, are you social? Are you fun? Like, you contribute while you're going out. Do you have fun?
Yeah.
And so, if you have two of the three, then you're good. Yeah. But if you only have one, then it's like you're kind of a
you're just good a social guy, but not a good pilot.
Yeah, it's like we need to have and so I feel like I had all these. I had some leaders that only had like one.
Yeah.
One, like they're just a good ground admin guy.
Yeah.
They couldn't fly the plane, and they didn't have a good social game, and so you're just like it was tough.
Yeah.
And so, but again, when you have leaders, especially when you have, all the officers in the squadron, they're not all pilots, but mostly, and that when you don't have a pilot, the commanding officer of the squadron that's not a good pilot, how can anybody like think this guy has his shit together when if he can't fly the plane? It's like, it's crazy, right?
It's like a basics.
How would anybody follow you if you couldn't fly the plane? You do what you job, like I'm a pilot and I have, you have wings, but you can't do it well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm out,
Crazy. So you retired from the...
Yeah. So technically not retired. So I served 10 years as an officer, and then I did my, obligation after getting, as a winged aviator, and then I got out. So
okay,
it's just kind of I was honorably discharged, so I don't have any retirement or anything like that.
So they can ask you to come back and fly.
No, they can't. So I made sure of that. So I did my time. We're good.
Okay. All right. If the phone rings, you're not going to.
No, I'm not even. I mean, I think my says like, I'm in Bali. Don't bother me.
Yeah. Perfect. And then you had an option to go and be a pilot on just like commercial.
So after I got out, I did a few other jobs, kind of figuring out what I wanted to be when I grew up, including started doing art as well. But I was a simulator instructor for the V-22.
Okay,
which was an incredible job. So basically, it's all the benefits, but you don't have to worry about dying.
Yeah, perfect.
So it was a great one, and we play in these enormous, 2-story tall simulators that are exact duplicates of the V-22, and it's incredible.
Wow.
So it's a great experience. And so, like I did that. I did that for 3 years, about 3 years before.
That's how you train pilots before they go to a real one.
Right.
So they do it on simulator for a while.
Yeah.
Not to fuck up $150 million.
Yeah, exactly.
In your life.
You can have the best little button on, like, in the LED panel, you have crash override. So you just press that and, give it a whirl.
Yeah. Does this plane have autopilot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So all planes have autopilot.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can take this and you just, set it up, altitude, airspeed, heading.
Yeah.
And then you can do auto nacelles, boop, boop, couple it up. And it'll take you wherever you want to go, all automatically. So
easier than driving a car.
Yeah, in some ways. Yeah.
We don't have self-driving cars.
I know.
Self-driving airplane.
Yeah.
Self-driving airplane.
Hell. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
funny. So the commercial airspace is not your gig. It's too
No.
boring.
Yeah, for me it is.
You're like, what are you gonna do?
I like a little more
Yeah.
chaos,
'Cause
you know?
essentially, you sit there, you bring your sandwich. I don't know, but
I mean,
you put it up.
it is a huge amount of downtime, if you
Yeah,
will, you know? So it's just it never called to
and you
me.
cannot just be on your phone. I
Yeah,
guess
I
you
think
can.
that there's I don't know the exact rules
Yeah,
of whatever that is, but I think you can have some type of, iPad out and, do
yeah,
stuff, but you're just listening. Basically, you're, climbing up to altitude, you're listening to, making your mandatory calls, listening for other traffic, but
yeah, yeah.
it's typically pretty chill,
Wow.
pretty calm. So, yeah.
And you decided to go a different route. So what is that route?
Yeah. So, art. Yeah. So
Which
I've
is very unusual.
yeah, it's I think it was something that was there from the beginning, like from a young age, because I'd always, had that, I'd say, creative, artistic spark that and I think, and again, that served me well in the Marine Corps because, you know, when it's a shitty situation, if you're creative, then you can figure out like you have an infinite possibilities
Yeah,
to figure it out. It's not just one or two, it's 1,000.
yeah,
And I think that helped. But yeah, after I got out of the military in 2016, right before, so kind of as I was getting out, I started, I kind of was like starting, buying some canvases and painting, and
yeah.
um, I had painted the first painting I did. It's still in San Diego, but it was a skyline of the San Diego, and it's about a 7 feet by 4 feet wide. So it was a big piece, and I did it just because like I wanted to do this for a while, where I just it's churning around in my head, and I put it together and I put it on the wall in the living room, and I'm like, what do Kelly's like, I love it, everybody loved it, and then I started having people, people whoever would come over and be like, what's this
Yeah.
on your wall? And I'm like, where'd you get this? And I'm like, oh, I did that, and then I just had this feedback of just awe. I would say awe.
Yeah.
And I had, I'm kind of like, holy shit. Wow. I wasn't thinking, it's like, you don't do that. I wasn't doing that for anybody else. I
Yeah.
was just doing that for me. And because and then I had that again, awe, which is, I feel like kind of even almost crazy to say, but it kept happening. And I'm like, oh, wow, I just did this for me out of like love. I just love to do it. And so I had that was kind of like, that first expression of it. When I was, out of the Marine Corps, adult. And then, at some point, my wife and like we were chatting, and I was having this like imposter syndrome, and then Kelly's like, Blake, you're an artist. And then I'm like, I am. Oh, I'm like, it's like I couldn't. I had this wild thing that like I wasn't an artist.
Yeah.
Which, it's looking, I kind of still think that way to some
I
degree.
mean, you're selling your paintings for like thousands of dollars. Of course, you're an artist.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
A, the paintings are amazing. I checked them out.
Thank
And
you.
B, there are people are buying them.
Yeah.
So which means that you are an artist.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's still, I don't know. It's just, I think that type of feeling, is always something to hold on to because it's spectacular. It's like, and also people that when when somebody's got my art, I did a piece for the Green School Foundation.
Yeah.
There was the Ignite Gala. And so I did a piece, and similarly this was kind of my first digital piece that I'd done. And same thing. It was just like, they're just like, oh my God, I love it. So, just like the spark of emotion and love, happiness. I'm like, oh my God, that never gets old.
They
I don't
look
think
really
that'll
good,
ever get
man. We're going to show them here, here, and here. So you see the paintings. They look amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, bro.
Wow. So it's somewhere, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but there is some element of war in those paintings, like the one I seen. So it's like war and art are combined in one. Like what is your inspiration? How do you associate that?
I think the backgrounds of all of my paintings are kind of our chaos. Kind of like this drip and the method that have, whatever, they call it the Blake Fisher method. I don't know. It's an amalgamation of, I like to think of like Jackson Pollock and this guy out of LA. I think he's from Copenhagen, Michael Branderup.
Yeah.
So he's does some geometric, but the background is this chaos.
Yeah.
Be it space or the drip or this kind of coalescence of every color that make up the background. And sometimes I've been told by my wife and so other people like that's just a beautiful painting by itself, and I'm like, oh, not done yet.
Yeah.
But the background is that chaos. That's that war. That's something that again, it's always be a part of me, and it's kind of manifested in that way where that kind of back to the first painting, like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But then then the next part of that will be either a face or a skyline or or some geometric something geometric shapes and something like that. But I think it's like the juxtaposition of art and war, right? Where art is maybe the complete antithesis to war. And I also I don't know exactly what I'm doing either, but it's just that
it works.
Yeah, it's just that I do it because I love it.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's crazy. You remind me of Jackson Pollock. When I first look at it, I'm like, because I love
Thank
Jackson
you.
Pollock.
Thank
I was
you.
watching this movie. I don't usually watch movies. That's why I remember that one.
Yeah.
Accountant with
yes, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
And he had Pollock. I watched this movie 2 weeks ago. Then I looked at your art and I'm like, oh, I really like this abstract brushes. And it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks,
amazing. Bro. So you went from flying a plane for the Marine Corps to being a famous artist.
Well, I don't know if I'm famous yet, but maybe.
You're famous in this circle.
All right.
The circle that I know. I mean, yeah, it's a green school showcase your art. So green school is a big place.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to go. That it was cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the last but not least topic I want to talk to you about is your wife, because you mentioned her a few times, and she is a very important part of all of the journey. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I met Kelly in 2006. So we met. It's kind of fortuitous. So we actually met on. So technically, we met on Facebook in 2002.
Oh wow!
Whenever like Facebook was just out. I mean, I can't remember if I was a freshman or sophomore. And, my cousin had set us up in some way. And so we met finally in 2006 at his wedding. I was a groomsman. She was a bridesmaid.
Classic.
And so we walked down the aisle together then. And then, but yeah, and so and it was more or less, it was pretty much love at first sight.
Yeah.
So we met then, got engaged about a year and a half later. But so she is, interesting and special. So she has, and what is so unique about her is that she's a medium, and she has this absolutely unique, incredible ability to, basically chat and talk with people's loved ones that have passed on. And this gift, I equate it to what her gift is like. She is like a Bene Gesserit from the movie Dune, or the book Dune. Okay. It's something like that.
Wow.
Where, that's just like one part of her deal of like where she.
Yeah.
But people come see her to, have closure. They come chat with her to get past the trauma they've experienced in their life. They come to her as like the last resort. She has this ability to sense and feel and to, whatever, the energy that we put off, she feels it and sense. It's like, think of like the Green Mile.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to, you don't have to touch anybody in the sense where it's like you lay on hands and then, but there is absolutely that is, the reality is Kelly, where she literally feels and senses, and sometimes every single emotion that this person experienced, had, or vice versa.
Wow.
And it's hard to it's hard to believe, and it's hard to comprehend. And I think of it as, so in quantum physics, you have photons. At any point, the photons are attached in an atom or wherever, and they're split apart. They're tied via quantum entanglement. So, one goes up, one goes down, no matter if they're a mile apart or a million miles apart. And so you're saying, and that's the idea, is like, so it's entangled some way, right? So then we're all entangled.
Yeah.
And so she has this sensitivity to be able to, I don't know, feel it, but then and then contextualize it. And sometimes she sees it visually. I mean, just it's wild. And so I think that I'm lucky.
Yeah.
It's like it's a lucky, and also it's like a blessing and a curse too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So she's part of my life, and I mean we went, basically. I asked her to marry me, and then I'm like, hey, I'm going into the Marine Corps, and I'm going to be gone a lot. And she just like started bawling. I remember when I told her that, and I'm like, oh shit, because I was planning out the whole day to,
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh,
Here's the good news. Here's the bad news.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, her and I have been tied together, since 2006, and
So she went through all the journey of
yeah,
being a wife of a Marine Corps pilot.
yeah.
And now an artist.
Yeah, I think it's better nowadays.
Yeah. At least you're at home.
Yeah,
expressing yourself.
Yeah, but I think, and that's something too that she's like also that balance of, I think she's given me and my life equanimity, and to co-create an incredible life together, and children. So, and I think that you probably have some similar relationship and believe in that way as well. So, but yeah, it's just it's incredible to have a partner and person that you can bounce off any idea and be truly radically transparent and truthful with.
And I assume for somebody who is a veteran, what other people would not come to anybody home, and they would be just completely depressed and stressed out, and all the stories that come through their heads, they would just sit there by themselves.
Right.
You have somebody to just unload and say, okay, so let's talk about it. This is what happens. And you have a reason as well.
Right.
To continue your life. Like this,
this
time of your service is not the end. It's just part of your life.
Right.
Just one part of your life.
Exactly.
So what can we do? I know you really feel for these veterans. It's very, very important for you. So as a society, as yourself, what can we do to help them?
Well, man, that's a good question. I think it's having conversations like this first to illuminate in someone's mind that there's an alternative. There's another way, like back to being creative. It's not pondering like, should I take my own life? It's no, there's infinite amount of options out there. But that's one. The other one is like, to embrace difficulty. Like this life is it's not easy. And I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of saying, what comes to mind, but generally speaking, I think it's like approaching the world and everybody with compassion first.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing. So kind of a motto that I kind of go by is I operate with love and compassion, but I'm always ready to kill a motherfucker.
I like that.
So, but that's what it is. Like
that's true.
It's like those two things first. It's three things, and so those two first. But that's there to I don't for protection, because
I hear you.
A weak, harmless man can't. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
But we, I think, is just understanding that. It's like it's understanding that there is I think an epidemic in suicide and that's a part of our race.
Yeah.
That's not. I think that there's a better option
for sure.
So
yeah, that's great. I can see that these people should be some of the best people we have in terms of when they come back. They already have all this endurance and they have the discipline. They should be the one running the world after this. And the fact that they come back, and I cannot compare to anything, but I went to a meditation retreat for 10 days.
Yeah, you mentioned
and
that.
I would go and I came back, and at one point I was like, I'm so stressed out here right now because the life is so harder, which is crazy to say, but like when you're following orders and everything is scheduled, life's pretty simple, and you're like, you don't have to think about.
Exactly.
Once you come back and everything is at you, you're like, I just want to go back and sit there and be quiet. So I had this thought for like a few days of, please bring me back. I don't know what to do. And I could imagine if you live like that for 10 years and then you come back, like there's no path for me. There's nothing for me. So I agree that it's just finding out that this is just a training for you. You got everything you
Right.
needed, and I need to channel it into something amazing. And those people already have everything they need to be the leaders of our world and to be these great people.
Yeah, I think so. And I've kind of said that similarly, where there's some incredible people that have taken their own life. Like, but those, I think the ones, if they don't, those are the people that are adaptable, smart, worldly. They've been around the world. They've
Yeah.
seen that the U.S. or, you know, wherever you're from, it's not just this homogenous, single, you know, little thing. It's like, hey, dude, the world has billions of people in it. They do like the Christianities and even, you know, mostly, you know, we're like, this is so different, wild, and they have this worldly presence about them because
Yeah.
they've been everywhere. They've been to the Philippines, and they've been, you know, just all like third world, first world, everywhere. And they see so many different people, and they have to interact with other militaries. And so they come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that they, in some ways, they do find compassion in that, you know, that juxtaposition of war. And then they get back and have no purpose, have no mission. But if they were given one, they'd be a, you know, incredible performer contributing to society.
100%. So yeah, if you're listening, please don't give up. Find what drives you and let it drive you, and you're gonna be great.
Yeah.
The last question I ask everybody, according to Blake, how to live a happy and fulfilling life.
I said it before, is that if you can operate with love and compassion, and you seek difficult things, you seek the road less traveled, then your life will be rewarded.
Yeah.
Especially a man. And I think that because mostly men are the ones that are taking their own life. And I think that's how I've tried to, you know, live my life is seeking the obstacle. The obstacle is the way.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Man, it's such a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Having
Thanks for
you
having
here,
me. Yeah.
seeing you, and yeah, I'm inspired.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Let's keep going.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, guys. And please like and subscribe. And who knows? We might give you a free V22 plane or no.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
See ya.